This video instruction manual will cover the proper operation and application of the JPW oven. This oven is also colloquially known as the Hansel and Gretel, as it is large enough to cook upwards of 10 small children. This oven is used primarily for out-of-autoclave processing of composites, cook-off of waste prepreg, and other processes requiring a large heating source. The controllers function using Fahrenheit and have a maximum use temperature of 500 degrees. A removable rolling rack is also featured, allowing for the stacking of multiple parts within the oven. This oven also features lines for an external vacuum pump when it is desired to vacuum bag a part. Please contact the PET lab tech for acquisition, setup, and training on the use of these pumps. The lines for these pumps are intended for high temperature fittings, and so the vacuum fittings installed on your parts must also match. The oven and all equipment required to operate it are an ETEC 114, also known as the thermoforming lab within the PET processing labs. These are located on the first floor of the Engineering Technology building. We will now show how to operate the Hansel and Gretel, but first we must discuss safety. As previously mentioned, this oven is called the Hansel and Gretel because it is large enough to contain a human being. Do not enter a hot oven. Open the doors and allow it to cool before stepping inside. If you do become locked inside of the oven, a firm kick of the door will free you from harm. Because the oven and the parts contained within will all be at elevated temperatures, always wear hot gloves for your safety. These gloves are located in the drawers kitty corner to the oven below the thermoforming ovens. Gloves must be dry and free of holes to be effective. If handling large parts, protective sleeves are also available. There are 8 basic steps to operating the JPW oven. First, you load the part. Second, you turn on the power. Third, we set the target temperature and the upper limit. Fourth, you reset the heater controller. Fifth, we turn on the heat. 6, you cook your part for the desired time. 7, you power down the oven. 8, you unload your part. We will go into further detail on each of these steps.
The first thing you will do when using the Hansel and Gretel is to load your part. Depending on the size of your part, you may or may not need the shelves to set your part on. They go in the metal rack on wheels and are located to the left of the oven if they are not already in the oven. The oven has some differential heating quirks from the top of the oven to the bottom of the oven, so it is best to put your part on the shelf 2/3 of the way up from the bottom of the oven next to the thermocouple, which is the 2 wires sticking out of the wall. After you put your part on the shelf is connect the vacuum lights to your part if it is required. This is a good point to turn the vacuum on and make sure that the part will hold vacuum. This is accomplished by pressing the on button located on the end of the vacuum pump. After your part is loaded and the vacuum is drawn, close the door. To keep the lab functioning well, you should label the oven with a piece of paper stating your name, project, the temp you're running at, the date, and when you will return to take your part out. The second step in running the Hansel and Gretel is to turn on the power. There are 2 switches that are required to power the Hansel and Gretel. There is a breaker on the wall that needs to be flipped to the on position. The breaker is to the right of the oven. The next thing to do is to flip the green switch to the oven that is marked oven on to the on position. The switch will light up when the oven is turned on. When the oven is on, you will hear the fan running. There are 2 thermostats on the oven controller. The top is the temp setting, the bottom is the high limit setting. Both thermostats have red numbers, which are the actual value displays, and green numbers, which are the set points. We'll address the temp controller setting first. To set the temp controller, you simply press the arrows up and down to get to your required temp. As soon as you change the temp, a small green light will flash in the lower corner next to the 0. While this light is flashing, the temp is not set. Once you reach your temp, simply press the Set Enter button so that this flashing light goes out. Your temp is now set. The next setting we'll address is the high limit. The high limit is due to how this oven works and most cure cycles will be used in this oven, the high limit does not need to be set very precisely every time. Unless you're doing a really specific and complex cure, it could be set to the max temp on the oven, which is 500 F. For this purposes, we're going to set our high limit about 60 degrees above our set temp. To set the high limit, you must hold down the green Set Enter button until SP flashes in the red numbers. At this point, use the arrow keys to adjust the green value to set the high limit to the temperature you want. When you have reached the temperature you want, hold down Set Enter till the number that you started with, which is the temperature inside the oven, is displayed again. You have now set the temps on your oven. Before you can turn on the heat on the oven, you must reset the heater. To do so, if you look on the high limit controller, you will see an orange light right above the Set Enter button. The heater is reset. The heat will not go on while this light is lit. To reset this, simply hold the up arrow on the main screen that pops up that is marked reset underneath it until the orange light goes out. You are now able to turn the heat on the oven. Before opening the doors to the oven, please make sure that you're wearing hot gloves, as some of the pieces inside the oven are made of steel and will retain heat and burn you. Open the doors to the oven, disconnect your vacuum line, turn off the vacuum pump, and carefully remove your part to the table located directly across from the oven. Close the oven doors back up when you are done, and make sure that you have cleaned up your area. You have now successfully cured your part using the Hansel and Gretel oven.